there again. Week by week, brick by brick, bar by bar. Percentages you practice. See when the thing in the kids how did it? He's trying to be like LeBron James. Has a skill for is he a receiver or what is he? Quarterback too. Remember that dope was a receiver. He was picking all his up. I listened to 365 for a while. They're not regular fans. Shout out to the WNBA. Congratulations. We should listen to celebrating achievements, confronting our fears. We interview the dreamers, the doers, the straight hustlers, inspiring the youth. Yeah, we raising up these brothers, breaking down the hate. Welcome to another episode of Above Average Black Men. Yours truly, Chris A. Pender.
Chris Jr., as always, here to empower, inspire, uplift.
Devin Pender, here to remind you guys to like, follow, subscribe, share, comment, interact with us.
Yes, as always, I mean, please interact with us, whether that's during the show, after the show. I mean, I feel like we do get a lot of love after the show, but, you know, for those who do take the time to download, we love you a little bit more. So. But no, we're going to have a good show tonight. My dad's already with the sound effects. Hopefully we get plenty of those tonight. Had those queued up, ready to go.
I don't know, you guys' answer is going to be interesting.
Why is that?
Because I already know.
I like to think that I give pretty thought out answers.
Yeah, I didn't say that. I didn't say that. I just said they're going to be interesting, man. Tonight we're going to talk about men, women, and building healthy relationships.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that's something that's always been a topic for the past however many years. It seems like, you know, just a struggle for people to try to
it's getting
try to grasp and put their head around, but you know,
especially more nowadays.
I had to write down my 8 questions.
8 questions.
8 questions you should ask.
Game show.
Relationship. No, 8 questions you should ask. You know, when you're starting a relationship off, man, to make sure you guys are on the same page.
But no, I think, like you said, sometimes I mean, there's a lot going on. I feel like people, in a general sense, are feeling the brunt of life. Like, you know, it's driving some people crazy on both sides, whether it's your financial, you know, or just your everyday home life, which you see on a day-to-day basis. For like people are struggling. And I think some of that stuff leads into, you know, relationships that people have.
I think it's a lot of things that contribute. I think that's one. I think how you were raised contributes to it. What kind of trauma you have contributes to it. You know, because even your general thought process, you know, the way you view life in general, contributes to it, man. You know, relationships are kind of like, you know, it's like, I love the analogy. I use the analogy all the time. It's like if I have a Volkswagen, your mom got 20 suitcases, I got 20 suitcases, Volkswagen only owed 10. You know, you just start throwing out stuff to make it fit. And then what happens is as the journey goes on, you start unpacking the suitcase you have left and you have no idea what's in it. I think a lot of people do that, man. Especially, I remember, I think it was last year you guys told me that people don't date anymore. Was it last year you told me that or something?
Mm-hmm. More casual, I guess. It depends what you define dating.
Well, see, I would say courting, but I know y'all courting.
Yeah,
man. You know, when you find not recording, courting. When you find the right person, man, it's a process, man. You gotta. That's why I got my 8 questions, man. You gotta kind of check it out, man. You know, when you don't go in a car lot and see the car and buy the first car you see, but you test drive it. You kind of get used to it. You know, you look at it to see make sure there's enough room for your legs to stretch out, man. You know, make sure it got the right sound. You do all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
So when you should be checking out, you know, I'm not saying test drive, that's not what I'm saying, but you should be checking out the person you're in a relationship with, man. You know, you got to know that, man.
I mean, I think most people think they do that. I think some people kind of put,
right.
So a lot of test driving going on.
I mean, I
And
don't.
some people lie about the Carfax.
But see, you got to define about checking it out. I don't mean checking it out by just casually going out and having fun. I mean, you got to ask questions, man. You got to kind of, it's like a job interview, man. You talking about spending the rest of your life with somebody, man. You got to ask some important questions.
Here's the thing. Now is what kind of questions can you ask? Some of these questions are too offensive.
Yeah,
It's too soon to ask.
offensive.
Well, I didn't say soon, but it's a process. So I'm saying, like, you know, you got you, and you know this. You know what I'm about to say, man. You know, relationships can shape or break people. You know, some people get these relationships and they get scarred, man, and mess them up for every other relationship after that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, some people have a bad relationship and they mess their kids up. You know, because their kids see it and the kids think that's what a relationship looks like, man. You know, relationship, you know, can be damaging, man. It can be generational. It can be generational, man. I mean, I laugh because, like, I never saw my mom and dad argue. So I thought when you get into a relationship, you don't argue. You know, what I learned later was they argue behind closed doors. I just never saw it. You know, so, you know, you learn a lot from what you're exposed to growing up. You know, and if you're smart, you learn what to do and what not to do. But a lot of people just follow the mold or follow what was said in front of them.
I mean, the mold right now, what is in front of people is on social media.
Yeah, that's sad.
Like, I really do think that's where a lot of people go or turn to get a lot of information, honestly. Like, but
well, hopefully,
especially like relationship advice, especially when you don't feel like you have certain things at home, or as an example, or even outside of that, like, it's just popular, like, it's a popular thing that people talk about, and sometimes it's said enough where it becomes somewhat like an expectation, you know, in society. Like, you start to hear rumblings of people just saying, like, oh, having expectations of what these things, of what a relationship should look like, and it'd be so far gone and wrong, but then it's just the loudest thing in the room, and now it's an expectation.
Because their expectations are based off what they know or what they think they know.
But the crazy part about social media is, like, none of these people even know.
Oh, I agree.
Even experience
but
something.
That's the most dangerous.
But that's the most stuff
but that's
they
the
never
most
had in their life.
I say this all the time. The best parent in the world is the ones who don't have kids, because they always think they know how to raise kids. There's always one without kids is when they tell you how to be the super parent, always. And then when they get a kid, it gets jacked up. So that's pretty funny. But I think most people, everybody, we're a product of our environment. We are. And if you raise around certain things in relationship, you know, it kind of lays the foundation for it. And then, but you also get some people who think because they've seen relationships that they're the relationship guru. So to your point, they do. They think they know it all. You know, and I look at Steve Harvey. You know, Steve
I was gonna say Derek Jackson.
As a comedian, he's pretty funny. But people take marriage advice from him, man. You know, they do. And I'm thinking to myself, like, why? But they do. There's another guy used to come on the radio. I can't think of his name, man. He used to give some jacked up advice, man.
Because people are hungry, they looking for something.
I agree.
That's right.
And they like what they're getting from them. You know?
But you know what else though too? Sometimes people are looking for not even necessarily answers. I feel like confirmation of what their
wrongness.
Yeah, right. For real.
Affirm me in my wrongness.
Like, that's what people are living in. Affirm me in my nonsense. That's it. Like, really just affirm me on. People don't like to hear hard truths anymore. They don't like hard work. They don't like discipline. Like, and anytime that I feel like you kind of go against those things, like, people feel attacked and all this stuff.
But you should, and it was funny because I was having a conversation with a coworker about this yesterday. And because the question I asked her was, because I have some people who work for me and they're in some jacked up relationships. Mm-hmm. Can't never say it to them, but they're in relationships where, you know, they work and they have kids. Husband don't work. He won't even watch the kids. You know, yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. It's just nuts. I don't understand how you go out and work. You the breadwinner, you paying all the bills, and he won't even watch the kids. But
you playing games?
I don't know what he does, but they tell you in a minute. You know, they'll tell you in a minute. My sister felt it. You know, oh, my husband, he won't watch the kids. So I don't know, but you know, but I think some people struggle with the whole thing of a healthy relationship versus a toxic relationship, because if you only know toxic, you think that's the way it's supposed to be. It's like when I was doing workshops in the shelter. I was the first, at the time, the only male doing workshops in the female shelter. I took your mom with me a couple times, you know, and I had 20 clients, and all 20 clients were in there because they were in there because they were abused. You know, and I used to think before I went in there that, if you abuse, just leave. But what I found out when I was in there, man, it became a sense of normalcy for them. The guy manipulated them and twisted them around. Nobody gonna love you like I love you, kind of thing. Separated from the family, man. You work on their self-esteem. But
it's a slow breakdown.
But that was no. And I even had some said their mothers told them that's how he show you he love you. So it's crazy how
it's a vicious cycle.
Yeah, it is. Wow. It's crazy how people pick up stuff. But I think if you don't know the difference, it becomes normal. And I mean, that's where, people get in trouble in relationships. And that's why I say you got to ask questions. And I'm not saying the first date, Devin, but if you find somebody and you think you like them, you got to ask them questions, man. You got to check out the family. You got to make sure, you're not getting into some crazy stuff. Because love only goes but so far. You can love somebody, man, but they also can drive you crazy and make it a short trip, man. I think, like for instance, today, and I'm not generalizing, but I think you would agree with me. I think today you have a majority of women, because I was not in the conversation, but I was checking out the conversation, and they were saying about when their wives want to make more money, how it wasn't that, it was when they started throwing it in their face.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That's when it became a problem, man. When it was like,
get your money.
Yeah. Well, I'll make more money. You should do this kind of thing. Yeah. You should be doing this. Yeah. There you go. And that's where the problem laid in. But I also think, and some people don't like what I say, but I think that's because you got people who don't understand their roles in a relationship. Mm-hmm. I don't mean roles like, and you do the dishes, you do this, you do that, but I mean a role between the husband and the wife. If you're in a relationship, and I think two people should be working together. So it shouldn't be about who makes the most money, because the same person would probably be highly upset if the man did that. I'm the breadwinner. Since I'm the breadwinner, you got to do this stuff. But that's part of the way you were raised. People are raised like that, man, and they accept that. And it goes back to, I know you say some people do, but a lot of people who I talk to, they don't really do their homework, man. They go out, they have fun, they go, they do different things together, but they don't ask questions. Mm-hmm. And then you marry somebody, and now all of a sudden, see, when you live with somebody, you see stuff you don't see when you're just dating somebody. That's when the real stuff come out. And that's when you find out if the feet stink.
Stress test.
If they have real eyes, you find all that stuff out, man. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but it's interesting, man. People don't ask those questions. And some of my questions are based around faith, man. Like, to me, if you're a person of faith, you should ask them about their relationship with Christ, man. You should ask them, man, because a lot of people fake you out. They'll fake you out, man. They'll act like they just on both sides, male and female. I'm this good church going person, and then once they get you.
What about the relationship with their family? Can I also ask that?
Yeah, you should know. But no, but this is the deal. When I met your mom, I made sure I met the family. Mm-hmm. When I decided that she was going to be the one, I made sure. I made sure I met the family, man. Because you see, and it's funny because I didn't know this after I got married, that typically if you see the person's mom, you get a pretty good idea who she's going to be. Because most times they possess some of the same characteristics. Yeah. And that's true between your grandma and your mom. They have a lot of the same characteristics. But you can't be afraid to ask questions. You should ask, not what your favorite color is, you want to know how to handle money. So you ask them hypothetical questions. What happened if you got $1 million? If she takes she got $1 million and she naming all the stuff she's gonna buy for her, you may want to think about that. If she's not talking about investing in something or she ain't talking about getting you something, everything is about me. That's a question you need to know. How do you handle your money? Because now I don't know if they do it, but I hear women asking people what their credit score is.
That's nuts.
I'm just saying. I hear girls talking about that when they get serious about somebody. I know the credit score.
I mean, when you get serious, I get that, but maybe I don't know.
Your mom never asked me for credit score.
Because you want to know why? Because people they have some all-time lows out here. You don't know what type of debt people are like. I've been watching this show called just like Credit Hammer or something like that, and audits. It's ridiculous. Credit audit, and this dude just talks to regular everyday people who they spending hundreds of thousands of dollars in like Pokemon. It's ridiculous stuff. Yeah. So I think it is not too far fetched to ask somebody like, yo,
I mean,
what does that look like?
but you need to be prepared to ask these questions. Like, you got to ask yourself the question: why are you in a relationship? Are you in it because you're lonely? Because you're just trying to find somebody. Because sometimes our emotions get in the way.
I mean, you gotta watch Love Is Blind, Dad. Like people say all types of stuff. They be thinking that they ready and that they want it, and they say all the right things.
No, I said you got to ask yourself that question.
Why
are you getting in this
relationship? Lying to themselves.
Why I can't help? If you lying to yourself, I can't help.
And that's why they can easily lie to you.
Yeah,
it's like people really. That's actually a good point right now. I think it's way more people that are lying to themselves than ever before, and nobody is saying anything to them. Before, you used to have this thing called shame. Where you could tell people like, "Hey, cut that out." You know that's not you. But now we just had to let everybody say whatever they want and just be like, "Yeah, good for you."
But if you're in a relationship, if you dating somebody, you gotta go to them, man. You gotta. I'm not saying you sit there and call them a liar, but you gotta ask questions, man. Because you're talking about spending the rest of your life with somebody or getting into a relationship, you want to know now. You don't want to wait till you're married and then you find all this stuff out. Although you do find stuff out when you get married, but you want to make sure, man. That's why I said, and I agree with you. People lie to themselves. I can't help that person. But if you're somebody and you're in a relationship, why are you in a relationship? Like, I don't know if it's true or not because I've never been there, but they say people are more vulnerable when they're on a rebound. When they first break up with somebody, they're more vulnerable, man. You got to know why am I in this relationship? It's because, is it just based on physical attraction? What's it based on? Yeah, you got to know, man, because is that going to sustain?
I mean, what's actually kind of interesting is I don't know. Again, those are probably questions that you think about asking of yourself. I don't think anybody ever thinks like that. They just automatically go to.
That's what I'm sharing.
I think in some places it's just like, oh, it's almost like an expectation. Like, oh, that's what I'm supposed to do.
But that's why you got to get my book, man, to feed me in the credit because it'll help you. It'll help you.
I'll be mobbing you up, like setting you up. March Madness.
It'll help you. It'll help you, man. Or you get my children's book, man. You're more than enough because people low self-esteem may want to check that out. You may want to check it out.
What are you gonna do with the children?
I know. What's actually waiting for you?
Some people that may be their level. It may be their level.
Work your way up.
Yeah. You gotta ask them, do they have a contentious spirit, man? Do they like to argue, man? You want to know that, man. You don't want somebody coming out and
no one's gonna ever say they like to argue.
No, you gotta check it out. You gotta check it out, man. Like if it's 80 degrees outside and you say it's 79, is this gonna turn into a whole blown argument? Like, yo, you're wrong. Yeah, and when you're around somebody enough, if they like to argue because they will argue about every little thing. Every little thing, man. You'll say it's purple and they'll say it's lavender. It's like they'll find something to argue about, man. Yeah.
That's your son.
That is just,
he's like, well,
see, but it ain't worth arguing about. Just let it go. Yeah, you sound like Mackenzie. Mackenzie does that all the time. That's not purple. He says that's lavender. That's turquoise. I'm like,
you said turquoise.
You sound just like Mackenzie. So you can, he says that too. He says that too.
Scion.
See y'all, that's why y'all butt heads because y'all just like he does that all the time. Indigo, like what is indigo, man? I don't even know what indigo is. He says that this yeah, but these are questions you want to like. These are questions you want to ask, and because I work with women, I see some of the stuff, man. I'm thinking to myself like, wow, is homeboy noticing what I'm noticing here? Is she always a victim? Every time something go wrong, and you have a discussion, it always ends up with her being the victim. It's like, it starts out with you.
Son of times, man.
No, but I'm just saying.
But
but you still want to know because you got to figure out how. I always say this: you want to know what you can live with. Some people can live with certain things, and some people can't. It's like I use cooking as an example. Some people, their wife being a cook is a huge deal. It's a huge deal, man. To some people, it's not.
I do enjoy some good flavor food.
But I'm just saying,
I mean, some diverse meals.
Yeah. When I was coming up, you met somebody, you invested in them because you saw potential in them. Now people want instant manifestation, man. They want people to be there right away, and and that's not always the case. There's not a lot of dudes walk around, young dudes walk around already making six figures. This is not.
Yeah.
So that's where the investment comes in. Are they worth investing in? When you have conversations and you're talking about, your dreams and your hopes and your things and whatever. Yeah, but these are questions. But these is what you got to find out.
Some people,
like you have an entrepreneur spirit, so you don't want to be with somebody that don't. You don't want to be with somebody. You don't want to be with somebody keep telling you, well, that's not going to work. Why are you trying that? Nah, you want somebody
like, go get it.
Now, you want somebody, you do want somebody to be,
make you think a little different.
But go get it. You don't need the world tells.
That's a great idea.
The world tells black men enough that they can't succeed. You don't need somebody in your house telling you can't succeed either. You don't.
You're never.
Yeah. Who do you think you are? They start comparing you to people. You're no Steve Harvey. Or you're no.
First of all, please.
I don't even want to be Steve Harvey.
You could have said anybody.
But you laughing though because people, I work with guys, and you'd be surprised. Well, not famous guys, but guys. Sometimes women often compare guys to other guys, especially if the thing about relationships.
Comparison game.
Yeah, but if you don't, most people don't realize you don't know what's going on behind the scenes. You have no idea. All you see is them in public. So people see a couple in public and they'll think it's perfect. Girl, where you getting from? Where you get him from? How and they don't know. When they get home, he walk around, one shoe on, one shoe off. I don't know. You can be buck naked walk around. You can just have a shirt on walk around. I don't know. But when you see people in public, though, yeah. So to your point, and with social media, we fall for that now. We don't. My grandma said a lot of monsters live in mansions. She'd say all the time.
True.
Yeah.
Man, are we seeing that? She was spot on.
Yeah. Way before our time, man. But I think it's important that you ask some questions, man. You want to know that.
Some monsters in mansions today. Still trying to put them in prison.
Are they lazy? Do they have a poverty-stricken mentality? They set up for mediocrity. They do just enough, man. You work and she work, and you come home, man. She wait for you. House ain't clean. She ain't cooking nothing. She doing nothing. You come, I'm tired. Or you hustling. You getting your grind on. You're trying to, build the future. And I'm tired today. I'm not going to do that today. That's the stuff you want to know, because it's hard to carry somebody with you.
Work.
It's hard. Yeah.
Life is work.
Yeah, but sometimes we don't, man. And the easy one, do you have common sense? No, seriously.
So I mean, you know what? I think some of this is like, my thing is date at your level.
What do you mean by that? Explain
that. Date at your level, whether that is
explain to our listeners.
Mentally, financially, like all of that. Date at your level. I think some people be trying to do things that's outside their means.
Don't go to a steakhouse and all you got is choose money.
Yeah,
but how do you grow? How do you grow?
Together.
But if you date at your level, it's hard. Together. You chip in and get a steak together. No.
It's about to be like Hunger Games.
Then you can go to Eddie V's.
Stay in your district.
You ain't going to Eddie V's.
Stay in your district. No, but you know what's crazy? Because you was just saying the idea of like work ethic, and if it's two people that's like hard working and like,
but I don't
y'all
think
can get it. But
I think you can date. It depends on who you are. I think it's okay to date. As you put it, at a different level. I think, like, I wouldn't want to be with somebody just like me. I wouldn't, because I'm hard to live with.
I mean, but y'all at the same level.
No,
you're not the same person.
Oh, your mom and I.
Oh yeah, y'all was at the same level.
We complete opposites.
Y'all different people, but you see, I'm saying like levels in life.
But we
y'all have a very type is very hardworking. Yeah,
40 years of force.
Yes, You guys like understand like family, team, like cohesiveness. Like so it's like, but y'all met at the same level too. Like it wasn't like y'all both had necessarily a lot, but y'all was like, we gonna get it. we gonna get it somehow.
But we were at different levels, for the sense of
with different personalities.
But we were we were at different level. I mean, we were willing to work at it though. Yeah, so we were, but we weren't at the same level because I've always had the entrepreneur spirit. She always had her family, get a job, open job, stay at the job. My family was always close. We were super close. Mm-hmm. We did the hug and sip that we do. Our family didn't do that. We
wasn't hugging, but they together.
Yeah, we saw things differently. But being together, to your point, working together, finding those areas that we could come together and learn from each other, which to your point doesn't happen now. We worked at it. We did. We worked at it. And we weren't that far apart either. It wasn't like, I was on Mars and she was on Venus. I've known people who did that. So I do understand. But I just think sometimes, I agree with you, but I think sometimes, you need somebody to help you raise the bar.
Yeah. I mean, but you know what though too? I think that's another whole conversation maybe.
Holding the show.
Yeah, that idea like somebody to help you raise the bar. What does that look like? How do you know if you need the bar to be raised? Yeah, and like being willing to be open to that bar being raised.
But you may not know, but that's what the other person comes in that they can challenge you. Mm-hmm. Because there's some times where you may not see something in yourself that someone else sees. You may we were talking about last night. Thanks for tuning in for a little bit. I don't know how you stayed on, but I saw you checked out a little bit last night. I was waiting for the critique, so I said, okay, anyway. But we talked about that last night, how we changed when we met our wives, and our wives added something different to our lives. It was a process, but they did raise the bar for us. We never wanted to be on welfare or anything like that. But when you single, and we. Now they have all these different things. When we were growing up, we weren't exposed to social media. You know what I mean? So you kind of exposed to what you saw. Mm-hmm. So, we had this, our view of being successful changed when we got married because, they challenged us to be different. Yeah. And but I don't know how much that happens now. I don't. I know when I talk to couples, I don't often see it. I do see a lot of competition. I do see a lot of competition in relationships, which is interesting. Yeah. Which is interesting. How so? What do you mean competition? Because they both want to make more money than the other person.
Really?
Yeah, man. They both try to be super, super successful. But then sometimes it's his and hers.
I don't think that's terrible.
Yeah, super successful.
But if you compete, if you want it for yourself, yes. Yeah. But if you're doing it because your other half is doing it, that's not cool. You don't do it to be, if you're doing it because you have these dreams, but you don't do it because you married to somebody and, I want to outdo them. I don't do anything to outdo your mom. I don't. I do it because it's going to benefit everybody. I do it for me because that's how I am. That's how I'm built. That's how I'm wired. I wouldn't just go out and just try to your point now, I wouldn't be out trying to be something I'm not, just to compete against somebody.
Just to compete.
Yeah, but people do it. People repeat relationships, man. Or they want to be a power couple. That's we're gonna be.
Well, it's been a thing since JC and Beyonce, Michelle, I think Barack Obama. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just everybody wants to be a power couple. This is the thing they just throw out there. I said Bobby and Whitney.
They didn't throw out. And this is a big one, man. Is a relationship going to help or hinder? The question you gotta ask, man, because sometimes we get relationships because somebody's pretty, man, or sexy or whatever it is, man, and they be a royal thorn in our side. And so is it going to help you or hinder you? That's the question you got to ask yourself, man.
Yeah. Latinas are spicy.
I'm just saying because like it's funny because people like to say he who finds a wife finds a good thing. Every woman is not meant to be a wife. Ooh, you
heard a lot of feelings there. Yeah,
that's just like every man. Every man is not meant to be a husband.
Just took over your body.
It ain't. But it's true. It's like I work with the young boys. And we talk about it. And so one of them will say, well, I want to get married. Okay, well, what's how many girls you got now? Man, I got 4 or 5. I can't be. I'm not meant to be with one girl in high school. So if you're not meant to be with one girl, why would you marry? Should not be your goal.
I mean, that goes to the point of what I said earlier about dates. So people was like, check your box. It's like, so you supposed to do in life, So
I agree with that, but see, that's another reason not to get married, not just because you're checking a box.
I think also they wanted to fit like their ideal of marriage. Like I think we see a lot more of that now too. Like where people want marriage to be like what their vision is versus the tradition of it.
I mean, another question I would ask. What's their view of growing old together? I want to know.
Buried in the same box.
That's a good question. I don't think people really.
If somebody said that to me, I'm leaving. I'm going to the bathroom and never coming back. That's too far ahead. Buried. 20 years old, you're buried in the same box.
I like that. Straight.
No. You already know the type of box.
And the next question is, who's going to be buried in the box? Me? Nah.
Depends on how this date goes.
She got your toss.
What kind of taste does she have? You want to know what kind of taste she has, man. Because to your point, if you got a beer budget and she's champagne, living champagne life, When I was in DC, it was funny, but it was a good analogy. He said, some people have a Toyota wife and some people have a Ferrari wife. He said, you got the Toyota wife, you just got a gas, you just take care of her, maintain it. He said, the Ferrari wife, man. He said, how much it cost to put brake pads on that thing? So it was kind of funny.
That's kind of crazy.
He was like, yeah, man. He said, what? So, but that's true. You got but you got to figure out. Matter of fact, remember the Cosby's? Remember the Cosby's, Vanessa's boyfriend with the bush, light skin, tall, was always talking all the time. But anyway, he was one of the speakers. He don't have a bush now. He bald, man. But I just thought he was talking about that, and he was talking about how when you get married in relationships.
Is that the one that works at Walmart?
Nah, you talking about he has hair. You talking about Elvin? Elvin was Sandra's boyfriend. This guy went out with Vanessa for a little while. He didn't go long, but he kept coming around. He was light skinned, kind of tall, had the bush, talked a whole lot. But anyway, it was funny because that's what he talked about, the difference in women. When you get them and they have, Ferrari woman costs you a lot of money. When you go to get the brakes changed, you gotta get all the brakes changed. When you get the tire, you gotta get all the new tires. Toyota, you can get one tire, you can get two tires, you can get three tires. Just change the front brake pads. It's like everything is different, man. But so it was funny.
Some guys ain't go home and tell myself, I got a Toyota.
Well, no. One thing he said,
oh man,
you a Camry.
One thing he said, I had to tell somebody, don't go home and say that, man. One thing he said, and it was funny. He said his wife came from a single family home. He had a single family home. So he said, he had to tell his wife, man, I'm also your father. I'm like, man, can you imagine go home and say that to a black woman? I'm your father. What? So I'm laughing. I'm like, man, I know that. That's some stuff when you say that. Yeah. I said, don't go home and say to your wife, I'm your. You say that around your boys. So when you get home, that's not what you want to say. So we were laughing. But the Ferrari and the Toyota thing was funny because some women are high maintenance.
I mean, I understand what you're saying on that. That is funny. Yeah.
But if you look at it the other way, see, I thought about you things. So, man, we just say my wife is not as fine as
you. Right.
That's how I took it. Everybody was like, yeah, clapping and everything. I was like,
you can't afford this.
What you trying to say? Yeah. Toyota look, Ferrari is exotic, look good. Toyota's like one of them mills. I gotta call my wife one of them.
97. Had 97 too.
She a Toyota or she an Acura. Alexis. I'm sorry, Alexis.
Goodness, yeah.
But it was just funny, man. But I think these are questions that you need to ask, because I think too, when I sit down and counsel a couple, some of the stuff that come up, man, is stuff that nobody ever asked. Like, you gotta ask about their past. You gotta ask, man.
How's it gonna be tough?
No, but you got, for instance, I sat down with a couple, and they were having some intimacy problems, and come to find out, she was molested when she was younger, but she never told him. That's jacked up when you don't share that with your other half in your relationship. And to your point, she was faking it. But when they were dating, they got married all of a sudden. So I'm just saying, and I'm trauma is trauma, so trauma is real.
Some people try to do what they got to do to get to a certain point,
and you shouldn't do it. You shouldn't do it. Now they can lie to you, like you said, but at least you ask the question. Or pay attention to them. How do they respond? Like, I used to work with this lady, and I talk with my hands, and she used to jump a lot. Come to find out, her husband was beating her. Because I move my hands around a lot when I talk, man. And so I'm just saying.
I was going to say, I don't know. Angela's was a little jumpy at the house sometimes, just from me walking in the room. So.
That's that army. That's that army. Sniper from block. Yo, better make some noise when you come here, boy. Ninja 230. Nah, it's just, and people don't ask enough questions because when I sit down, I talk to them and counsel, and I got 40 years under my belt. So for me, I do have some more experience, but some of the questions are common sense questions. Yo, what happened in your last relationship? And he tell you, man, like it was funny because you get a kick out of this. I was watching this comedian, right? So this guy was giving her a hard time in the front row. So, when you give her a hard time, she turns down. She said, hey, what's your name? She said, he said, that's your daughter or your girlfriend? Well, your wife, right? He says, it's my girlfriend. So he said, girlfriend? He said, you look like you were married. He says, I was married. She said, this is going to get good. He said, well, why are you not married anymore? He says, I cheated. She said, you sitting next to your girlfriend saying you cheated in your last relationship? And she looked at him like she never knew this. So then she says, well, have you ever thought about cheating on her? And he says, yeah. I didn't do anything though. So I'm just saying, see that? So and she looked at him like she never knew any of this.
She never asked.
So, that's why
I have questions, right?
But now her and the whole club found out. So now I'm laughing because the comedian's like, yo, you're gonna be the rest of the show. She told him, all right, yo, you and me gonna be the rest of the show. But so I'm just saying, we don't ask, so you gotta ask those questions, man. Like, what happened in your last relationship? If I was single when I was dating somebody, I don't know how many boyfriends you had. You but see, that's the attitude right there. If you're 25 and you had 50 boyfriends, that's a problem. There's something wrong. Something wrong.
Some of them not attractive.
Yeah, they got different.
But see, if they say I don't know, then that's a bigger problem. If you would tell me I don't know, that's a bigger problem.
It's getting bad.
I got single people, and I say it all the time. I feel sorry for them because I would probably join the monastery. I'd probably become a monk because I couldn't do it. I hear how some of the women
talk.
Probably
getting down like that out there too.
Nah, but I hear how some of the women talk and some of the stuff they say. It's crazy. It is crazy, man. Like to your point,
it's like New York women. They were already rough and sounded like men. It's like they're bleeding out all over New York. They're bleeding out all over the place. No, they're here too.
I was about to say even here,
here too. Getting rough, but they're everywhere.
So let me ask you a question. So I already know the answer.
It's like the United States, roughest women in the world.
What kind of impact do you think this whole toxic masculinity have on relationships?
What do you mean?
What kind of impact?
The phrase or just like
no, the whole movement behind it. About women, men because they're too assertive, because of that, and maybe some women feel like they need to be more assertive, or you mentioned something earlier, where this young black girl.
It's been weaponized.
This is young black girl, and I'm laughing because she probably gonna get canceled. She's on Facebook, and she talks about why women struggle with men. And one of the things she talks about is you say you want a good man, you want a man to lead, but you question everything he does.
I was assuming she was gonna blame a man.
No.
She was waiting for her to go
she was saying that she got these friends and they say they want a good man, but then when they get one, they don't want to follow. Yeah. I want a man who's going to do all this stuff, and then when they do it, she talked about this. She said, you hear these women talking about they want these sensitive men, but then when you get a man once he cry, yeah, you think you're false. It's a lie. Why do you say it's a lie?
It sounds good. Until right, I was about to say until the tire gets so flat and you're stuck in the rain and now you're both crying in the car.
Nah, that's different. That ain't sensitive. That's weak. And you can't be crying at the Lion King and
it was so scary.
Yeah, you watch the Lion King and you're crying, oh Musamba. Nah,
it's something outside.
That's not sensitive. That's issues. I mean, sensitive is when, like, you know, like, yo, you know, you go through a lot of stuff. No, no, you go, you know, sometimes, you know, and we're gonna do a show on this. I think sometimes women don't understand how difficult it is for men. And I'm not making excuses. I think sometimes they don't get it how, you know, when you fight in that war, you know, you fighting in society. You don't want to come home and fight.
Right.
Yeah, you ain't trying to get the trifecta.
I think
you're not. But in their minds, they don't, for some reason, they don't see that.
Because I think it's the idea of that men have it easy.
Yeah.
And I think in society it's like this kind of we argue, go back and forth about everything, where it's like, no, it's harder for me, it's harder for me. It's where everybody has their own type of hard. It looks different for like how the day-to-day looks for a woman.
See, if I was dating today, there's two questions I would ask. One question: how much you know about Black history?
Yeah.
I'm just saying that would be
start giving out quizzes. Can you fill this out?
That would be
you gotta. You know what? You gotta be creative. You know how you do it.
Black and
Right. You gotta make it like a game.
It will be a game. I got Jeopardy. I downloaded Jeopardy on my computer. So matter of fact, we have a family game that we're gonna play Jeopardy. I said, you know. So like,
you
know,
can't do family.
Who was Kareem Abdul-Jabbar? If they can't say Lou Alcindor, then they don't know sports.
Well,
I'm just saying though. That's just an example. I'm not saying that's a line, but I think
I don't know how many dates you would have had. Yeah, like this one. Oh, thank goodness she found mine. And I'm out here making these quizzes.
I mean, yo, if I said I was dating now, I don't know how much Black history you know. Like, who is Gary Morgan? Do you know who that is? I'm asking questions. Yo,
right,
like, yo, who's been at the gas man? Do you know who plays with Banner Chris? I want to know. I need somebody that know their history, man.
I'm glad you're not dating now.
I know there's people out there who can answer that question.
I'm like, I'll be back. Go to the bathroom.
I don't want to date somebody. They idea Africans and Lion King. I don't.
Unfortunately, that's why I get them out there. That's where they learn.
Ain't that what Simba from? No.
First,
that's the conversation I want.
You would think Wakanda is a real place.
See, that's the problem. That's if I'm dating somebody and they tell me what kind is the real place, I'm leaving. You know what? But I think, but so for me, because the person needs to know a little bit. I'm not saying they got to be scholars, but they need to know a little bit about the history. You know, that's the question I'm asking, man. You know,
I mean, but you know what? And even in that, in such a situation like that, why can't it be? Does the elevation thing still, you know, work here? Where it's like, what if they don't know?
It depends.
And
on
it's
the
just
person
like you're able.
That ain't
to
elevation, man. If you, you know, if I'm,
it's people who don't like.
But I'm like 25 years old, and you can't tell me who Rosa Parks is. Come on, man. That's not elevation. That's a project. I can't tell me that lady that got off the back of the bus.
Yeah, and that right there should tell you.
I know she is. That's
but you know what's crazy? It's not just kids that would give you that answer.
Yeah,
Jimmy Fallon. Jimmy Kimmel has this thing on his show where he goes out and like asks people in public questions like that, like who's Rosa Parks? Like he'll show these people pictures of like Martin Luther King, and then call him a completely different name, and they'll just be like, go with it, like yeah, man.
See,
yeah, I saw him on TV the other day. Like,
now, if you're a black person and you don't know who Martin Luther King is, we got
that. It is bad. It's bad.
Because then now we don't have a dream, we have a nightmare. You gotta know. But see, the thing is, and I believe in elevation, but you got to be compatible. How you compatible with somebody? It's not like you ask them with basketball, they don't know basketball. Okay, that's nothing. You know, but you got to know something about something, man. You can't just be telling me about the reality TV shows and you gotta bring them to the table, man.
We live in the modern day idiocracy is unfolding right in front of us. So
I need somebody that can, discuss multiple things, man.
Again, what do you do that person to be able to kind of broaden their horizons, putting them on to.
There's a difference between broadening horizons and becoming a teacher. There's a whole difference.
Well, what if they open to it? You got to open it.
That's another thing. A lot of women say they want to be taught. They want to learn.
Yeah.
A lot of women do say that.
That's the thing now.
Teach me something.
I'll teach them something. This is called the internet. You know, this is called Google.
Yeah.
Here's 5 names. Google these names. Next time we get together, tell me a little something about it.
It actually makes me a little bit smarter because I feel like I gotta know everything.
Yeah.
You just gotta know a little bit of everything.
Nah, but I'm gonna keep what you do. You know, and that's another thing. You gotta find what do you have in common. I'm not talking about because you like steak or something like that. You know, what else? What other things do you have in common, man? You know, and I'm not saying they deal breakers, but does she like to read? You know, that's stuff you want to know, man. You know, does she invest in herself? You know,
Family, kids, all that stuff.
yeah. You know, which you will name your kids? Shaniqua, Shawaka, Shakita.
I mean, like,
You know, yeah, I'm just saying.
Talking kid names is crazy. What day is that?
It ain't crazy because you know how many people get married and they have a fight because now all of a sudden somebody wants 2 kids and somebody wants 5 kids because they never talked about it.
I mean, that's understandable, but we're talking about
even names. I don't want to marry somebody that's gonna name my kid and the kid has no vowels in his name.
Listen, that kid might go to leave.
Because he has no vowels in his name.
You just cut his options down.
You gotta work that much harder.
You're right. You're right. I think cut his
harder.
options down.
You think LeBron could have been the county?
Yeah.
You would have never heard or had no kids named
You
LeBron.
would have let someone named LeBron be your Texas.
He'd have been Mr. James. See?
You would have been right with Lee, LeBron, Lee.
There you go. See? There you go. He could have said Love Ron. So he could have said Love Ron. And it would have been Frank. It could have been Love Ron. It would have been Frank. But you should, man. You want to ask those questions, man. Yo, I mean, another obvious question. Yo, can you cook? What's your favorite dish? Because some people think cooking is put in a microwave. Is that what you want in a relationship?
That's insane. Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, they're gonna turn around and ask you, can you build a house?
Yeah, I can. It may take me a while, but I know the basics. Yo,
We're about 50 years.
I know the basics.
How big a house?
You know, and the fishes. Nah, but I just think, you know, you gotta dig in at certain questions. And for me, I'm going to step further, man. What kind of music do you listen to? Because I don't listen to all types of music, man. I don't want to be somewhere. I just don't. You get in the car. Nah, man. You know, I need some classy stuff. You know,
Classy.
You know, I like
You're
the good stuff.
bougie dater.
I sure am. Yo, and I'm proud of that. And I'm proud of that, man. You know, I want to hear some Luther, man. Yo, I do some Frankie Beverly, you know.
See, yeah. I mean, I can see that.
Yeah, you know.
You know,
I don't want to hear all Wu-Tang Crew.
that's not your generation.
I'm just saying, though. I don't want it. I don't want to hear that, man. You know, that's just who I am, though. I like a little jazz, man. You know, I like John Legend.
I listen
man.
to some of that stuff too.
Juicy J been doing jazz.
Juicy J been doing jazz.
I'm not listening to somebody named Juicy.
Juicy
Yeah,
J.
can I get Juicy? No.
That's been pretty good.
I'm gonna check that out.
I mean, some stuff, you know, I mean,
Jack Harlow's been doing R&B.
but I think we laugh, but think about it. If you marry somebody, you're in a search relationship, and you can't find something, you know, y'all look at 2 different TV shows. That could be a little issue. You gotta have something in common.
Yeah.
You know, you gotta have more in common. It's another. You know, I know on the air, so I got some praises, right? You know, if you like to be intimate, you can't marry somebody who don't want to be intimate. You know, who don't. That's not. You know, that's a problem. You touchy feeling, she like get off me. You know.
Doesn't that happen after 20 years?
Don't tell your mom said that. Wait till you get upstairs. Chris just stay on the air. I was like, Chris told me to ask you this question. I'm not when we get upstairs, I'm gonna ask you. I'll be like, I was saying.
You know it's crazy because when I'll be out with Angela and we be in public and like, you know, we'll be kind of PDA, you know, PDA in it. And some randomly, this lady that was in the nurse's office to bring me back, she was like, oh, y'all must be new love. Like, because after 10, 20 years, you could care less. Like, it was just like, man.
Well, that's not, you know,
I was like,
I don't know how much you listened to last night. None of us.
But a lot of people be saying, I know y'all, but it's like that People be.
No, I agree. I know it's true, but
Where do you think that the old ball and chain comes from? Like people talk about it like it's a weight.
Oh, I agree. And I hate that. Right? I hate that because you know when that usually comes out when there's somebody getting married in a group. When there's somebody that's thinking about getting married, that's what people start saying.
When you fall in some water, you're gonna drown.
You know what? I'm not gonna be with somebody that call it ball and chain. I'm just saying the idea. No, I agree with you. I agree. It's true. I hear it. I know people when I say I've been married 40 years to the same woman. Like, yo, man, how'd you do that? How'd you do that?
Like, yo, 40 years, I would have been about like 3 years.
Look, you know what? At the 40 years, I'm still in love. I'm still madly in love, man. You know, hey.
Mom watching.
Nah, she'll tell you that. You know, I still we talked about that last night. I don't know how much this to. I still have a strong desire for my wife, man. I don't, hey, but that's me.
Rooftops. Screaming at the rooftops, man.
That's me. But I'm gonna tell your mom though. Chris told me that actually. What happens after 20 years?
No.
He says.
Go to the comments. It's probably somebody in there right now. Like, what does happen after 20 years?
He says you become frigid after 20 years.
So I said, 15.
Nah, I just think, I think I do agree with what you said. I think, and it's funny because a good friend of mine, we had this conversation because even in church, he said that a lot of times people give marriage a bad rap. And then they wonder why young people don't get married. All they do is say bad stuff about marriage. But I also think it goes back to dating because some of the stuff that people complain about, you should have found out in the dating stage. Like dating your mom, I paid attention. She went to work every day. She worked 2 jobs when I first met her. A lot of stuff she had, she got 2 jobs. She was hustling. She wasn't missing days because it was raining and all kind of stuff like that, man. So some of the stuff you see that's evident when you're dating somebody. She offered to pay. She offered to pay her own attention to that. I'm just saying. I didn't let her, but you want somebody that, you know what I mean? You don't want somebody that's going to be sitting there expecting you to don't even reach for it when it comes. They put their hands on their arms like this, like,
Look at the phone.
Don't even look at the, there you go. Don't even look at the bill. At least pick the bill up and see how much it costs. Like, yo.
Don't even fake me out. I was just about to say that.
Fake me out.
Don't do that. Wow.
But even that's too much. That's too much. But like now, your mom will buy stuff now. She'll pay for stuff. She'll say, I got this. She'll do that.
Y'all together.
No, but I'm saying though, would you want somebody in your relationship that's going to be like that? You don't want somebody to expect you just all the same account. Nah, I got this. I'm gonna tell. See, that's another. There's 2 things I'm gonna tell me. Go back and watch the show. Your son has some interesting remarks to say about you. As a matter of fact, catch his next comedy act because you're gonna be in it. You're gonna be in it. Cause she had fun showing you when you did the thing about me. She thought that was so funny.
No, I got my bird too.
Just wait.
I'm just saying though, like, and you guys are the perfect example. You like having fun. You like being a comedian. You don't want somebody to just never want to go anywhere, never want to do anything. Mm-hmm. You don't. You want people to be, into what you're into. I'm not saying got to be exactly into everything. You and I have a lot of stuff in common. You don't want to be. No, I don't feel like doing that. No, I don't feel like doing that. And like I said, we grew because she hated sports. When we first met, she hated sports, man. And then, she would come watch me play, but she never really paid attention. And then you guys started playing and she got more into it. You know what I mean? So she was, to your point, she was wanting to grow. Yeah. But you don't want somebody to never go to your game. Why you still never
go to your rec league game? You got to at least go to one.
Nah, but see, if that's important, like,
what if they're not good though?
Like, good point. But anyway,
I ain't drop all your fear.
But anyway, because I remember when I was playing semi-pro baseball, and I was a young boy, and I was playing with some older guys, man. And it was funny because their wives and girlfriends would be at every game. Sometimes both. Right, which made it kind of interesting. But
somebody just seen it. Who's that with the home run face?
They got their schedule. They got their schedule mixed up.
The church.
Back there with the turkey.
Honey's only supposed to come to the home games, and Betty was supposed to go to the away game,
Right.
but it was at a mutual site, so they both showed up.
Yes.
And they don't know, and then all of a sudden, he get a hit, and they both start cheering. They both start.
Where's that?
Yeah, and he was like, "Yo, Chris, sit, my wife's actually with you. She calling your name. Like, yeah, why she don't go, Devin, go? Like, my girl ain't gonna be behind. Go, Devin, go. I'm leaving.
Like Reggie Jackson.
But I was a young boy playing on this team, but I'm saying, I thought it was so cool that they wives and girlfriends would come to every game. They would come to the game, man. I was like, man, that's all right, man. And some of them knew baseball and some of them didn't, but they would come. And I just thought that was so cool, man. Like, man, And so when I started playing, when I came home from school in Casa League, we started playing basketball. Their wives would come to the game, so I would take your mom.
I mean, that's cool. Like, just taking an interest in, that's a part of it too. Taking an interest in what your partner actually.
At least try.
Yeah,
Don't sit there and say,
give it a try.
I don't know if you know this or not, but I like opera. So we went to see your mom don't like it.
I mean, now that we know you're a violinist.
I do. Phantom of the Opera is like my favorite all-time opera. Yes, I like musicals. Like that's why she took me to see Alicia Keys thing. I like Broadway. I like that stuff, man. She don't. So we don't.
Necessarily not Mom's Twist.
No, it's not a twist.
I got a great play. You want to see?
No,
What is it?
Slam Frank.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I don't. You know what? I don't. Because that has so many different. That can have so many different connotations. No. I'll pass. I'll pass.
I thought it was it's real.
That's actually real.
I want to go.
Anyway, time's up, man. We had to close out on the Slam Frank.
I'm down to go. Dog.
It is like him.
No. I cannot imagine something called Slam Frank being like him. There cannot be any correlation between those two plays except that people want both of them. Hopefully they both dressed in both of them. Slam Frank,
Slam Frank was different.
Okay, well tell me about the twist. This I gotta hear.
It's rap.
She's Hispanic.
Oh man, no. Frank's a girl? No, I don't. Anyway. Devin picked the wrong time to get active.
Oh man, I want to check that out. But no, man, I think we had a great episode. And on the last
Another episode of Above Average Black Men. Yours truly, Chris Pender Sr.
Chris Jr.
Devin Pender. Like, follow, subscribe, share, comment.
And don't go see Slam Frank. We are not endorsing that. So whether you're on 365live.com, we are not endorsing Slam Frank.
That's hilarious.